Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera passions. I am your regular host, back from my holiday break, LeTara, back with my niece, the lovely and wonderful Lanaya.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Naya, for doing this with me on like such short notice.
No problem. You know I'm good for it.
Yeah, but I wanted to get an episode out, before it got too late in the month. And then the holidays just had me all discombobulated and I was confused. I was a week behind and didn't even realize it. So everybody, thank you to Naya for helping me get this episode out this week. All right. So we're back. We're in episodes 581 through 585. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday. Mine was fine. Me and Naya, we went home. We went down to my mom's.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
It was nice. Got to see family, friends.
Yeah, but we both were thrilled to be back in the apartment.
Oh, yeah.
When we got back. Mm-hmm. So, all right, 581 through 585 of Passions. This week was mostly a lot of recap, which was good for Naya because I didn't have to like bring her up to speed on a lot of stuff.
It was like the perfect place for me to come back in.
Yeah. So before we jump in, I'm going to say thank you to all of the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Marcus, Breelyn, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean, S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, our Lisa across the pond, Jessica, Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, and our newest patron, Justin. Thank you all so much for being patrons, for supporting the show, helping me out. It makes all the difference. I say it all the time and I mean it. I say it every time because I truly mean it. I do this show mostly for the patrons, and we've been having a good time on the Discord. So join up if you feel so inclined. Patreon.com/Passions Podcast. Sign up for any tier that looks agreeable to you. There's also a free version of the Patreon now that you can sign up for. You don't really get many perks, but I do put up a few things that the free members can also see and can also interact with. So go ahead and sign up for that. If you don't want to pay, you can also do the free version. Sound good? Sound good? Yes. All right. So now, down to business, the business at hand, y'all. I'm wearing my Lovable Lunatic t-shirt today because I have to remind myself that I love this bitch. She was driving me crazy this week. Crazy. Oh my God, Theresa, what is she's making a real weird turn that I don't care for.
She's really working a nerve.
Yeah, she's really working a nerve. So we're going to jump in. First, we're going to talk about magic. I literally have 3 magic notes, so we're just going to blow through that because hardly anything happened. Basically, Tabitha and Timmy are celebrating that Kay has made a full turn to the bad side. Remember last time she exclaimed to the heavens, "As God is my witness, I will never be good again."
That was so good.
And so at that point, Tabitha and Timmy have been like celebrating. They're drinking martinis. And then Charity and Miguel come in. They overhear Tabitha saying that Charity is doomed. But of course, Tabitha covers and says, "Oh, I just meant, you haven't heard about the drama with Sam and Grace and this new man, David." So Tabitha brings them up to speed on that whole thing. And then she gets to work to try to help Kay out a little bit. So our bad Kay is outside talking to herself. I can't remember all the things that she was saying, but she was like really talking to herself.
Garden variety schemes,
I'm going to get what I want. Charity be damned, just talking to herself.
Yeah.
And she's like, "And I can't believe it. I'm a bastard and my parents aren't even married. I'm the town laughing stock." Like, girl, calm down.
She acting like it's just like the worst thing to be ever.
She's like 16. Like, grow up. I don't know. It's like, okay, your parents weren't really legally married. but everything else is the same. I mean, I understand that, like, the whole new David part, but she doesn't even know David. And as far as she knows, her mom's just going to divorce David and they're just going to move on with their lives as if none of this ever happened. So, honey, Kay was just looking for an excuse to be bad. Let's be clear.
Oh, yeah, she's always looking for one.
So, anyway, Tabitha takes this opportunity to, like, send Miguel outside to check on Kay and separate him from Charity. She's like, oh, Charity, how about you come and have some tea with me? Miguel, why don't you go check on Kay? She was really upset. And so he goes outside to talk to her. He tries to cheer her up. She's happy to see him. She goes, where's Charity? He's like, she's inside. Okay. So then she tells him, you know, I've learned from this. I have to do whatever it takes to make myself happy. He's not picking up on the vibes yet.
Not at all.
I don't think he ever will because he's an idiot. They're talking, and then all of a sudden we hear this screaming at the top of their lungs. This person screaming, "Oh no! Oh my God!" Ah! Of course, it's Charity flipping the fuck out. This girl cannot go 30 seconds without having a meltdown.
There's something wrong with her.
And y'all, get this time, it was the leaves. Some leaves blew under the door, and she said, it's the leaves. They're telling me to beware. They're trying to send me a message. It's not just about Uncle Sam and Aunt Grace. It's something else. And that's like where we ended with magic this week. It was like nothing. So I imagine next week we're going to get a ton of magic.
Probably.
But yeah, she's flipping out about the leaves. Honey, I was cracking up because it really just looked like some leaves blew in.
Yes, and the way they panned to it to make it look scary, but it was just leaves. Like, it was just leaves at the door, and she's just losing her mind. And also, when Miguel was talking to Kay outside, there was like this part where she was like explaining like her like mindset, I guess, and it kind of just zoomed in on her. And I kind of hope that when it zoomed back out again, Miguel would just be gone. That would have been so funny.
That would be par for the course for Miguel for sure. That wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Mm-mm.
That wouldn't surprise me one bit. All right, so that's all the magic for this week. We did that fast because there was literally nothing. Now, but I did want to talk about the part with the leaves because it was just so funny. And hopefully they delve into that. Well, hopefully we see it again next week, which I'm sure we will. And they kind of stretch it out a little bit more.
I hope so. Did the leaves have something to do with that whole like thing where like nature was gonna like take Miguel or something like that?
Okay, so last week I already brought you up to speed about her talking to the tree, and the tree invoked the law of equivalent exchange. And so like you take from nature, you must give back to nature. And so she has to give up Miguel. Yes, I already told you about that. But last week, while they were like walking around, Kay, when she was outside imploring the heavens, saying like, as God is my witness, I will never be good again. She started this like windstorm. So like that knocked up the leaves and everything was like blowing around. And when the leaves started blowing around, they were whispering to Charity, beware, beware. And they all had like these faces on them. And they were going, beware, beware. So that's why she was scared when the leaves came in, I guess. But those leaves weren't saying anything. Like we didn't hear them say anything.
They just blew in and were sitting there. Unless, I mean, maybe only Charity could hear them. The same way she's the only one who has visions.
Yeah, but usually when it's something that only she can hear, we can hear it too.
That's true.
You know? All right. So now we're going to move on to our Shui's storyline. Sheridan and Louise. Y'all, Hank has pissed me off this week.
Hank had a little bit of sense for like 2 seconds, and then it just fell right out of him.
Yeah, he's the worst. Okay. So, I told y'all last week, or the last episode, that Hank, one day after Sheridan has been cremated and, laid to rest, he's telling Louise, you need to move on with your life. You can't sit in your grief for your whole life. It's like, maybe not my whole life, but can I get a week? Can I get a work week?
Can I get 3 days?
Yes. Can I
long weekend?
A long weekend. Please. So at the beginning of this episode, we see Hank has asked Luis out to dinner. Is like, hey man, you really need to be with your friends right now. Like, let's hang out. Meet me at the lobster shack for dinner. Lobster shack, baby. Lobster shack, baby. Lobster shack, baby. Lobster shack. I'm so glad we have finally come back to the lobster shack.
Oh,
Because
it's been a long time since.
it's been a long time since we've been to the lobster shack.
I don't think I've ever seen the Lobster Shack.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's iconic. It was like the only restaurant they went to for like 200 episodes. I mean,
Really?
they would go to like, well, Theresa burned down the Burger Hut in the first like week. And then they had the chicken coop, and that was like gone within a week. And then they brought up the book cafe, but the book cafe isn't really a restaurant. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is like the only restaurant we ever see them in,
You
really.
can sit down and get a meal. Everything else is burned down.
Yeah, we have seen a restaurant called the Seascape, but we haven't seen that in a long time. And it's like a ritzy, like where all the rich people go. But
People
anyway,
can't afford that. I guess.
right? No, they can't afford the Seascape restaurant. So, it's like the country club crowd.
There you go.
So then, uh, sorry, Hank has tricked Luis basically into coming to the lobster shack at 7 o'clock. Luis gets there and realizes, okay, Hank's with a date, and then Beth fucking walks in a beautiful dress. She looks great. To I think it's Fantasia, who Beth is like one of her favorite characters. So Fantasia, if you're listening, this is your week, girl. Beth shows up. She does her Beth thing, you know. So Beth shows up. Luis is like, what the fuck, man? Which, of course, because this obviously looks like he's been tricked into a double date, basically.
He's valid
right?
for being upset.
And so the one lady, I think she notices that he looks a little funky. So Hank's date is like, oh, I need to powder my nose. Beth, do you want to come with me? They go to the bathroom. And then Luis says, what are you trying to do, Hank? What is this? I am still mourning Sheridan. What is this, a date? And Hank is like feigning ignorance, like, oh, we're just a bunch of friends hanging out. It's like, first of all, I don't know that lady you're with. Second of all, Beth is my ex. Why would you invite her? Beth and I are not friends. We're exes.
Yeah,
there's a big difference. Like, why would you? Whatever. I mean, I guess they're friendly, but.
And it would be one thing if they used to date, they broke up, and then they kind of like went back to being friends, and it had been a long time since they dated, and they're just friends at this point. Beth has moved on. She's with somebody else. That would be different. But I haven't even seen this lady. You're going to get into it later, but the way she was talking, I have not even seen her. I didn't even know she existed.
Listen, I was cracking up actually what the stuff Beth was saying, because I feel like the lies have started already. I'm gonna say that right now. I feel like Fantasia, I'm sorry, girl. I feel like the lies have started already with Beth. Mm-hmm. So, yes, Luis calls Hank on his bullshit with this stupid date. Hank is feigning ignorance. He goes, I just thought you should be spending time with friends. Luis makes it clear to Hank that he says, I'm not ready to move on and be with some other woman. And Luis tells Hank, I know that Sheridan's gone, but I'm not ready to move on. And it was so lovely. I love seeing like the really vulnerable side of Luis and him. And he's making complete sense. Yes, yeah. Sheridan's gone, but I'm not ready. I'm not over it yet. And I'm not ready to be over it yet. I have to process. I have to go through my grief and live with it. And he says, I'm not ready to move on. It's not right. And it's not loyal to Sheridan's memory, especially this quickly.
Yeah, it's been a day.
Yeah, it's been like a day, 2 days at this point.
Yeah, dust hasn't even settled yet.
Yeah, so he walks out of the restaurant and then he sees a vision of Sheridan. He thinks he sees her standing there and he's like, Sheridan, as he walks out of the restaurant, Sheridan. And then she disappears. He doesn't see her. And that's when Beth walks out of the restaurant to find him. And she tries to make it clear with him that I wasn't trying to like get with you. This was really just about friendship, nothing more. Bullshit.
We all know
Bullshit,
the
Beth.
truth.
I'm not buying it with Beth. Because then she admits to him, yeah, I admit I've never gotten over you, but I know how much you loved Sheridan. I know how much she meant to you. And I could see how much Sheridan loved you too, and that your love was genuine and true. And also, once I got to know Sheridan, I really liked her too. And we became really good friends. Huh?
In what universe?
She said Sheridan and I became really good friends. We actually had lots of long talks about life and all kinds of things. When, Beth? You've been gone forever. First of all, you just got back from I don't know how long she was gone. She's been gone forever. From her little trip up the coast of New England, taking pictures with her photography club. That's what she told us she was last week. So, when you had really, Beth, you were really good friends and close friends with Sheridan. At when? I've never once seen these two women have a conversation.
Name one conversation that y'all had. Show me one picture where y'all was hanging out. She probably couldn't. She couldn't bring one.
She's talking about they were really good friends. Like I said, I'm calling bullshit on this. I think Beth has already started on her bullshit.
I'm gonna give Luis a pass because he's grieving and he probably isn't paying attention to what Beth is like saying or anything like that. But if he was like in his right mind, he'd probably call her out too. Like, I never saw y'all hanging out ever. What are you talking about, girl? Get out of my face.
Yeah. So then Luis says that he wants to hear more about like these alleged conversations. He wants to hear everything. He's like, tell me everything. I would love to like just walk and talk more about Sheridan. And so they spend some time, I guess. We don't really see that. We don't see it. Conveniently, we don't see or hear her talk about any of her times or any of her long talks with Sheridan or anything she knows about Sheridan. We cut away from that. So later on, Luis is having visions of Sheridan. He keeps having visions of Sheridan. He has a dream where Sheridan's like standing in the doorway. He sees her. He tries to get to her, and then the door just closes. I'm sorry, y'all. I cracked up because of the way it looked. It was sad. Like, the premise is sad. The execution, hilarious.
Laughing at that man pain.
He like ran into the door. I was like, why the fuck would they do that to him? Why would they do that to him?
No, they too.
What'd you say?
I said just the writers are just being mean to him. Why he gotta run into a door?
Yeah,
he went through enough. He done already blew up and lost his Sheridan and just I don't know. And then Hank setting him up with Beth. Like, I don't know.
Hasn't this man been through enough? But apparently not, because he keeps having these dreams of Sheridan. He finally catches up to her in the dream, like he opens the door, catches up to her, and she's like in the rose bushes that his father planted for Pilar outside of the cottage. In his dream, that's where he is, and she's like smelling the roses. And he remembers her saying, as long as the roses at this cottage are in bloom, I will love you. Here's a question. Are roses always in bloom?
Yeah, that's a good question, because are they brown right now? Are they wilted? Are they even still there?
Like she said, as long as these roses are always in bloom. But are they always in bloom? Like, don't they not bloom sometimes?
Because I feel like flowers are meant to like be kind of like a passing thing. They're not always in bloom.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that seems a little odd.
I know rose bushes are like special. People like cultivate them different ways. So maybe those roses were meant to be like blooming year round or something. I don't know. But it'd just be weird to be like, as long as the daffodils are in bloom, I will love you. It's like, yeah, well, they're going to die.
Like a few weeks. Like, is that how long your love lasts?
Yeah. So
he was just trying to be cute.
That he wakes up from his dream, and then he decides he's going to go back to work. This man's like, I can't sit around, and I kind of get it. It's not how I would be able to deal with it. I have to shut down and like really shut down all the way. But I do know, like, some people have to be busy.
Yeah,
You
some
know?
people like to, keep busy so they can like distract their mind or whatever.
Yeah. So he goes back to work, and one of the officers hands him a stack of sympathy cards that people had sent to him because of Sheridan. And he's like, I'll go through these later. And he's pulling stuff off of his desk that has been piled up since he's been off on vacation. Like, he hasn't been to work in a while. And he finds a rose on his desk. And he remembers Sheridan, what Sheridan said about as long as the roses are in bloom, blah, blah, blah. Um, and he looks at it and he goes, Sheridan's alive. Sheridan's alive. And we hear like her voiceover in his head that says, whenever we are apart, just look at this rose and you'll know I'm thinking of you and our love. So he's like, Sam, he tells Sam, Sheridan is alive. And Sam's like, huh? Buddy? Are you sure,
Yeah.
buddy?
Because in his mind, like, she's already been found, cremated, funeral already, all that stuff. Well, I don't know if has there been a funeral?
Yeah, they had a funeral.
Okay,
had a funeral immediately.
Okay, so they done, they've covered all the bases. So in his mind, he's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, so Sam says, well, there was all the evidence. Remember, you yourself said that the fingerprints matched, the dental records matched, you had a body, you cremated it, you had a funeral for her. Sheridan is gone, buddy. You have to accept it. He says all the evidence points to the Sheridan being gone, that she is no longer with us. Louise says to him, yeah, but my gut is telling me something different. And you were the person when I was a rookie, you were the one who told me that I should always trust my gut because my gut never lies. He says to him, maybe we should throw logic out of the window. I understand logically that it doesn't make sense, but my mama told me to pray for a miracle, and we all pray for a miracle, and who knows, maybe a miracle happened. Crazier things have happened. And Louise said that, and I was like, he is absolutely right, actually. Mm-hmm. And Sam, of all people, Sam should be like, yeah, you know what? Crazier things have happened. My house got sucked to hell, literally. Like, yeah. Sam should never be skeptical of anything fucking ever. Mm-mm. He should never be skeptical of anything that happens in this town, since he himself fought the worm dick demon monster and went to the flames of hell to get his kids back, and then lost his house to the pit of hell.
Yeah, honestly, like, he should not be surprised if somebody drops dead in front of him and gets right back up like nothing ever happened, because at that point, it wouldn't even be weird with all the stuff that's been going
on. No.
You better believe in everything.
Yes. And not only that, too, Sheridan's been dead before. Let's not forget, Sheridan has been dead before. And she came back. We got her back.
This is her first rodeo.
Yeah, man, she knows. Girl knows how to handle death. Okay. Our girl knows how to handle death, honey. She looks death in the eye. She says, I'm the one who knocks. Have you ever watched Breaking Bad, haven't you?
Yeah, I know that's a Breaking Bad reference.
Okay, yeah.
Don't worry, I got that one.
Knocks. Yeah, Sheridan is what was he? Not Walt Whitman. He was Walter White. Well, yeah. No, Heisenberg.
Oh yeah, his little alter ego, yeah.
Yeah, Sheridan is Heisenberg. Okay. So Luis tells Sam, throw logic out of the window. Crazier things have happened. And at this point, Luis calls the Bermuda police captain, whom they were working with to find Sheridan when they were on the island. And he asks him to reopen Sheridan's case. He says, Sheridan is alive. I believe that she's alive. Can you please, we're going to fax over like a missing persons poster. Can you please just reopen her case, look for her, send this out to everybody on the island, like, make an announcement at least. The captain rightfully is like, I assume you have new evidence to prove that she might still be alive. And Luis is like, no, it's just like a feeling. Yeah. And that's when Sam gets on the phone with the police captain, and he kind of vouches for Luis, and he's like, hey, Luis is the best man I know, the best cop I know. I know that this is probably sounds crazy, but could you please just, like, what could it hurt? Please just send out the missing persons poster, and hopefully we'll see if anything comes of it. I know more than anybody that nothing will probably come of it. He says something like that. It's like, way to be supportive, Sam.
Yeah, you didn't
But
have to
he,
tack that on to the end.
yeah, but he does go to bat. He's like, and he's like, this is what got me. He was like, I'm the police chief of Harmony. Could you do this for me as like a personal favor? That man don't know you. He knows Luis. Like,
why would he be doing you favors?
Why would he do you a personal favor? He doesn't know you. He's talking to him like,
owe you anything.
He's talking to him like, hey man, we go way back. Can you do this as a favor to me? This man don't know you from Adam. If he saw you on the street, he would walk right past you. He would not know anything
Y'all
about
go way back to like 15 minutes ago when the conversation started.
Not even that long. It's been 30 seconds.
Yeah.
30 seconds. So anyway, the captain is like, you know what? Sure, I'll do that. I'll fax it over to me. I'll fax it to, all the hotels and places around the islands. Cool. So he gets it and he starts, for some reason, the Bermuda police call around the island. So they call to Liz's establishment, her hotel, where Diana Sheridan is staying, right? And they're like, please be on the lookout for an emergency fax. That's it. That's all they told her. What? Just fax the thing. Why make the phone call?
That's like just a waste of energy. I don't understand.
Or if you are going to call, say, please be on the lookout for a missing persons poster that we're faxing over to you. Why just an emergency fax?
Yeah, well, a little bit more information would help.
It's for the plot. I know it's for the plot. So anyway, Liz, the
same way that is for the plot is the same way Diane is still on that island instead of the mainland.
Diana, like princess, as in princess.
Did I say Diane? I meant to say Diana. Not the one that's her real name. She's Sheridan.
Child, so let's talk about Sheridan, because this is a good segue. So we pick up with Sheridan, or Diana. I'm going to be calling her for Diana for these purposes right now. Diana and stupid ass Brian are on the beach, and they're having like a late night picnic. And Diana sees that newspaper that says Sheridan Crane lost at sea, or whatever it said.
It was
dead like or something. Something about Sheridan Crane with no picture of Sheridan, but just a giant headline about Sheridan Crane. And she is looking at the paper and she's wondering, could Sheridan be me? Could I be Sheridan Crane? And then that's when Brian tells her, well, there was another paper that had Sheridan, that had the story about Sheridan's body being identified, and they've already found her and laid her to rest. And so then she goes back to wondering, is anyone out there looking for me? Y'all, if you remember episodes 1 through 100 or whatever, like the Paris episodes of Sheridan, the first round in Paris, we are back to that Sheridan. This girl is irritating as fuck. Oh, I wonder if someone loves me. Why doesn't anybody love me? No one's looking for me. No one cares where I am. Oh, like she's so, I know she's like been through.
The whole time Brian is like, did I just call him Brian? Is that his name?
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay. I care so little for him that I wasn't sure. But yeah, the whole time Brian keeps trying to kind of deflect. He keeps opening up the basket and he's like, so let's see what kind of snacks we got packed in here. Well, Diana's having an existential crisis about her identity. It's so funny.
He was, because he doesn't want her to find out who she is. He's so sick. I cannot stand him.
Yeah, he is messed up in the head.
He's rotten, and I don't like him, and I don't give a fuck who loves him, who likes him. I don't like this character, and I have good reason as we go further into this, because when he showed up, I remember Elisa was on, and when he showed up, immediately I had a visceral response to him. It was like, ugh, Brian. And like he hadn't even said anything. He hadn't done anything. He was just like standing in a stupid ass jean vest with no shirt on. And I was just like, I cannot stand him. And honestly, I was right. I was correct. So let's go on. So, like you said, he is ignoring her entire crises while he's like looking for snacks, and because he doesn't want her to like figure out who she is. And he definitely doesn't want her going back to whoever might love her, especially romantically, right? He has made that very clear, or he makes that very clear later on. So she's having these issues. They finally get up and she asks Brian, she says, Brian, will you help me find out who I am? And Brian's like, yes, of course. You know, I want to help you as much as I can. And he says, you know, Sheridan Crane might be dead, but Diana is very much alive. Oh, brother. I think that's the episode title though. Sheridan Crane might be dead, but Diana is very much alive. Y'all, okay. So Diana can't get Sheridan out of her head. They go back to the hotel. She's still thinking about Sheridan. And she then starts to have like this intense craving for hot cocoa. And she can't figure it out. She's like, I don't know. I just have this really weird craving for hot cocoa. And now I feel like retroactively they're making it like it's a thing that she and Luis have done a lot. But frankly, I think I've only seen them get hot cocoa 2 times. That I can remember. But maybe, you know, we don't see their every single day-to-day life necessarily. Like there's weeks will go by and we won't see Sheridan or Luis, right? So maybe they do get hot cocoa all the time.
Maybe.
We just don't know. But that's how it's been framed in the show, that she's having this craving because it's something that she and Luis share all the time. Brian goes and makes her some, and then later on, she goes to bed and she starts to dream, and she's tossing and turning, and we see a fuzzy vision of her dream. And it's her very first run-in with Luis. If you remember that when she came back to Harmony, she was driving back to Harmony from the Boston airport and she drove right into Luis's cop car. And that was their first introduction to each other. So that's what she dreamt about. She's tossing and turning. And then, what's his name?
Brian. Yeah, something like that.
Then Brian just walks into her room, like doesn't knock, just opens the door, stands there, is looking at her. Why doesn't she have any why doesn't she have any privacy? What makes him think he can just? This is a hotel, so he walks into her hotel room. She's in room number 6. It's not like they're sharing an adjoined room or a suite. He just walks into her room without knocking, nothing. That
just walks in.
And I know that's minor, but I just feel like it is such a big clue to who he is as a person. How he doesn't really have any boundaries, and he only cares about what he wants, and he's not thoughtful about how his actions might affect other people. I'm gonna say that. So yeah, I don't care for him. He just walks into her room, doesn't knock, just stands there watching her like toss and turn. Then Liz joins him and he's like, she must be having a bad dream. And she's like, well, maybe she's dreaming about her past. Maybe she's remembering something. And he doesn't want her to remember anything. He just wants her to be like I think what's so gross to me is that he doesn't want her to recover any of her memories. And to me, that means that he just wants her to be like this blank slate, like almost like a walking blow up doll.
And he wants her to be like, the only important thing in her life, because like people with memories have like other people that they, you know, love and like talk to and stuff like that. But if he got with her, then he would be like her whole world, basically.
He wants her to be as isolated as he is on this island. He wants her to be with him in that isolation. really,
Yeah.
really badly. And I just can't stand him for it. So anyway, she wakes up. Diana wakes up. She can't remember what she dreamt, but she felt like it was important. Then has a conversation with Liz elsewhere. Liz like pulls him aside. She's like, I could see the look on your face. You were happy that she couldn't remember, but maybe she was having a dream about the person that she loves, a boyfriend or a fiance. And she says, what if she does recover her memories? And she does have someone else. Neo says, well, I hope by the time Diana remembers whoever her special someone was, I will have replaced him.
Awful. Just awful.
Excuse me, sir. And maybe it's just because I'm so like, I love Louise and I want Sheridan to get back with Louise. Like I want her to recover her memories and make her own choice. I want her to be able to make her own decision. But something about that just, well, I'm hoping that by the time she does remember, she will have fallen in love with me. Okay.
And even if she was with someone terrible, I still wouldn't want her to get with this guy either, because his whole reasoning behind it and his like the whole reason he is partially even attracted to her is because she's just like a blank slate. Like that is just, I don't know. Like I'd be like, well, just get with neither one. Neither.
Yeah. There's no point in going from terrible to terrible.
Yeah.
That's silly.
But
a lateral move is silly. No, I agree. So later on, Diana goes outside and she sees this rose bush. Oh, these roses, my God. She sees this rose bush and she cannot for the life of her stop staring at it. She's just like, there's something about this. There's something about this that has me transfixed. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is, but I think these roses have something to do with my memory. And then she gets a memory of the car crash. So she remembers what she dreamt, and it was the car crash. She remembers that, and she remembers, okay, I had a car crash with an officer. And then she says, I remember something about a rose garden and somebody giving me a rose, but the vision is hazy. And she starts to see more and more. She starts getting more and more bits and pieces. And then she finally sees the man's face, and she's like, oh, I can see his face. I can see his face. Who is he? Who is he? I can see his face. So she now remembers what he looks like. She goes inside to tell Brian and Liz, and I think the doctor's there now too, that she's remembering things, and she remembers what the man's face looks like that might be someone important to her. At this point, this is when Liz gets that phone call about an emergency fax coming through. Diana overhears the phone call, talks to Liz about it. Liz says, I don't know what it is. They just said that there's an emergency fax we need to be looking out for. She starts getting excited. Maybe it's about me. Maybe it's about me. Could it be? Perhaps someone's looking for me. Is someone looking for me? You know what she's doing? She's doing like bad Disney bitch.
What is that?
I didn't mean that. She's doing bad Disney princess. She's doing like the Snow White, like really bad Snow White, like so innocent, wide-eyed. Oh dear, could it possibly be me? I don't know who I am. I'm just a little lamb lost in the woods. You know?
I'm just a little grape.
Oh, Naya. Okay, for anybody who nobody would get that reference. I'm going to tell you what the reference is. I watched this Chinese drama called Ashes of Love, and the main character in that, she's a grape fairy, even though she's not actually a grape, but that's here nor there. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who wants to watch it. I have now watched it a couple of times in its entirety. I do highly suggest it.
It is pretty good.
If you are into Asian dramas, I highly suggest Ashes of Love. It is so damn good. So anyway, so yeah, she's just a little grape. So yeah, that's all that's going on. Basically, that they're waiting on the fax. It hasn't come through yet. Brian like storms off. Actually, I'm not done with Brian. Brian like storms off as Diana's like waiting patiently at the fax machine, like with bated breath, looking at it, waiting for her fax to come through. to change her life. Brian walks off in a huff. Liz follows after him. And he basically says that he's upset because he doesn't, because she doesn't want to be on the island with him. he's like, I'm upset because she wants to leave. Yes, it's three of y'all on this island. Why do you think she would want to stay here forever? Why would you think?
I don't know.
Why would you? He was really upset. He's like, she wants to leave. Yes.
Who wouldn't want to leave an island trapped with you? Like,
she doesn't have her memories. Like, if this fax comes through, it might trigger something. And if it is her, then she can get in touch with her family, go somewhere else, meet other people who love her and care about her outside. Like, y'all don't even know her. See, that's the thing. Y'all are strangers. Like, period. Point blank, period. Y'all are strangers to her. So even if I have amnesia, if I have amnesia the way that Sheridan does, I understand the difference between a stranger and somebody I know, right? Like whoever was looking for me and knows me and has pictures of me and has mementos of me, things that can prove that they knew me and that we were friends or that we were family members.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume, and I know not all friends and not all family members, not all people are like the best, because her family, I mean, the Cranes are horrible. They're the ones who tried to kill her in the first place, right? But most of the time, I think we learn that strangers are more dangerous than the people at home. You know what I mean? Although most people get hurt by their family and like people who they know.
Kind of a dark twist.
You know what?
And especially in Sheridan's case.
Yeah, I'm about to prove my whole point wrong entirely.
But she has at least a better chance. Kind of.
Yeah, well, you would think and hope that the people who knew you, cared about you before you had amnesia, would have your best interests at heart and would also be helpful in helping you get your memories back. Exactly. At the very least, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where we are. Brian is mad because Sheridan doesn't want to stay on the island with him by like just the two of them on this. I can't stand him. I really can't stand him. I'm sorry to any Brian lovers out there, but no, I'm not. I'm not sorry. So get your life together. Look at your choices. Look at your life choices if you're standing him. All right. Oh my God, y'all. Now we get into the real meat of the episode. Fated couples and troubled marriages are kind of like intertwined this week. Honestly, I don't even know I think I'm going to have to change the names for the fated couples. I'm going to have to change it. Because now Theresa is basically in a troubled marriage.
True. It started trouble.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's talk about what's going on with Theresa first. If you remember last episode, Pilar was in Theresa's room putting away like some laundry and stuff. And then she happened to see Theresa's wedding gown. And she started to get all these feelings. She started to get upset about the things that have happened to Theresa recently. We all know that she went to Bermuda, got seduced by Julian, and then also married Julian. So then Pilar has a really big reaction, an angry, impulsive reaction where she just screams, no! And she swipes everything off of Theresa's desk. And then that causes something like red. Yeah, something red to be splattered all over Theresa's dress.
Some kind of mystery juice.
Yeah, Theresa and Ethan come running in. Ethan is confused. Y'all, that is the theme of the episode. Ethan is confused. Ethan is confused. This man is the most oblivious. And I honestly, and y'all know that I have like railed against Ethan in the past. This might have been the first week where I was like I started feeling kind of sorry for the guy. I really started feeling sorry for him. It's like his brain doesn't work well.
It doesn't work at all.
His brain just doesn't work well. So Theresa and Ethan rush into the room. Theresa, of course, knows exactly what's going on. Ethan is completely confused, befuddled.
As usual.
Theresa says, Mama, it's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. And Pilar says, no, it's not okay. It will never be okay. It is never going to be okay. That's what she says. Then Ethan says, hey, Pilar, can you explain to me what's going on? You can tell me anything. You know, you're like a second mother to me. And Theresa steps in and talks for her mother and says, oh, well, you know, so much has been going on with Sheridan and now Ivy being hurt. I'm sure Mama's just overwhelmed. And Pilar says, yeah, I saw the wedding dress and it made me think of Sheridan and Luis. And I just reacted badly and I acted with anger. And she says, I'm going to go make some tea and try and calm myself down. So she leaves. And when she goes to the kitchen, Father Lonigan decides to show up.
Randomly.
Father Lonigan decides to show up. Knock, knock, knock at the door. Pilar lets him in, and he says he's come over to pay his respects about Sheridan, I guess. And Pilar immediately just starts venting to this man about everything that's happened. And I'm not Catholic. I don't know how confession works. Like, can you do confession outside of the confessional? I don't know. Like, is he bound by the laws of the church at this point to keep stuff to himself? I don't know, because she just lays it all out.
By the way, she was confessing.
My Teresita is no longer a virgin. She was seduced by Sheridan Crane. He married her under duress. Like, she told him everything in 30 seconds. She just told him absolutely everything.
It was like rapid fire.
Yeah. And she says, I will never forgive the Cranes for what they've done. Never. And then she says, I'm losing my faith in God. And Father's like, no, don't do that.
I really try. He didn't do nothing. He's just like, oh.
Honestly, I think he was like kind of taking it all in. She laid a lot of this.
That is true.
Really quickly.
But I mean, isn't he kind of used to that? Isn't that what confession's all about? You know?
I don't know if these people in town really be confessing. I mean, what's her name? Gwen went to confession and told him that she was the one that sent the tabloid sent the thing from Theresa's computer.
What did he say?
He told her she had to tell the truth and to atone for her sins, but because they were in confession, he can't tell anybody.
Oh, well, yeah, true.
True, that's some bullshit. Anyway.
I guess you can't tell nobody. Like,
I don't know.
You can't break the rules.
He seemed to be able to break the rules when he feel like it. So, then she's telling him all of this stuff. I'm losing my faith in God. Why would God let something like this happen to my daughter? Sheridan Crane took my daughter's innocence. He stole her virginity, and now they're married. Meanwhile, Ethan is in Ethan is in the bedroom with Theresa, and he's pressuring her to get married again. He's back to like, we need to get married right away. And she says, no, we should wait. And he says, you keep saying we should wait, and that seems unlike you. Did something happen? Has something happened that would make you, trepidatious about getting married? And of course she invokes Luis, which is reasonable, frankly.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get married right after like he died either. Like that just seems.
Yeah, Sheridan just died. Luis is going through his grief. It does seem really inappropriate. However, Ethan brings up the fact that Luis was the one who told them they should get married right away. He's like, you shouldn't waste a moment. My biggest regret in my life is that I didn't marry Sheridan when I had the chance. So.
Yeah, I guess that's valid.
Yeah. So anyway, they go into the kitchen where Father Lonigan is gobsmacked by what he's been told by Pilar. Ethan tells Father Lonigan, Father, it's a good thing you're here. Theresa and I want to get married as soon as possible. And Father Lonigan says, I'm sorry, I cannot marry you. Huh? Ethan is shocked. Ethan's like, what? Father, what do you mean? And then Theresa steps in and talks for Father Lonigan. She says, oh, it's because of we need new licenses, and it's because of the documents, right, Father? We don't have everything that we need. And Father Lonigan covers for her, saying, yes, you should have all your documents in order before I can marry you. And he's, oh, no. He kind of covers for her, but he says, you should be the one to tell Ethan. That's what he says.
Blame him though. I wouldn't want to be in that. I'm not dropping that bombshell.
I will say, when he says that to her, Ethan's not in the room because he has now gone to get the documents. He has like a folder of documents that they need to sign. So Father Lonigan says to Theresa, while Ethan's out of earshot, you should be the one to tell Ethan. Like, I'm not going to say anything, but you need to be the one to tell him.
Yeah.
Ethan comes in with the documents, and they start going over that stupid ass marriage license application again, and they're going through the questions, and one of the questions are like, is either party married? And he's like, and he laughs, ha ha ha. You know, and he's the only one in the room who doesn't know.
And it's so sad to watch.
It really, like I said, I felt sorry for Ethan this week. The man, his brain's just not working. No. And he's so oblivious. I mean, read the room.
Yes. Can't you see how like nervous and sweaty everybody looks? Like,
when he said that, they all like looked down. Even Father Lonigan's blind ass looked down. Like, like even he was like, I need to avert my gaze.
And the way Theresa keeps talking for everybody right before they're about to like explain what's going on, like she just swoops in. It's like, no. And she's acting like super out of character because that girl ain't right if she ain't trying to get married like today. So
right.
Like, yeah.
Oh, so Ethan brings in the documents. They go over them a little bit, and then Pilar tries to stall for time a little bit, saying like, I can't remember exactly what it was that she said, but she was trying to stall for time a little bit with Ethan. But that's right when Ethan gets a phone call from one of the maids at the mansion and says he needs to get over to the mansion because Ivy and Rebecca are in a fight. Or, and remember, Ivy's in a wheelchair. She is vulnerable. So...
Are you sure she's vulnerable? Because she almost ran over Rebecca.
She did run over Rebecca.
She
ran
did.
her down. She ran her down in her hover.
Busted through the wall in that wheelchair too. I think the wheelchair is actually like a power up. Like she becomes stronger.
Oh my God, Ivy phase 2 or whatever. She's her form 2. She's not in her final form yet, but she's getting
there. What would her final form be? Like a full body cast?
No, her final form is going to be once she's out of that chair. Like if she's that good in the chair, once she's like learned to maneuver in the chair, she gets out of the chair, she's even stronger now.
Oh, it's like ankle weights, and then she takes them off. And
exactly,
then
Rock Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so he gets the phone call about Ivy. He and Theresa run off to the mansion together. At this point, Pilar continues to vent to Father Lonigan about all of her suffering. She's like, first I lost my husband. My son Antonio is God knows what. You know what? First I lost my husband. My son is God knows where. Sheridan has died. My children keep suffering. Now all of my children are suffering. And she says, I can't do this anymore. That's kind of where we leave it. I didn't even hear Father Lonigan give her any kind of like pep talk or nothing.
I mean, he hasn't really been doing that. Now, in your, like how you said, like in his defense, he is kind of in shock, I'm sure, just by the sheer amount of information. But I mean,
he needs to say something. He can say something. Like,
I'm sorry. This is a hard time, but with the power of God, we'll get through it. I don't know.
Right. Like, let's pray together. Let me pray for you. Let me give you a blessing. I don't know, something, man.
Yeah, because at this point, it seems like she's starting to unsubscribe from God. So you need to like reel her back in. Come on.
Right. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go over to the mansion and I'm going to come back to Theresa and Ethan. I think that's gonna be no, I'm not. They go up to the mansion. We'll talk about that later. Pilar vents to Father Lonigan. Then we roll over the day. We go to the next day. Whitney comes over to check with Theresa about like the annulment situation. Teresa's like, girl, keep your voice down. First of all, not so loud, Whitney. She's like, we're working on it. Julian told me he's getting it taken care of, so hopefully we'll get it done soon. Then Ethan comes into the kitchen and he tells them he's got a plan to start his own law firm. And he says he's always wanted to start his own law firm, and helping his mother out with her whole divorce and stuff, which we'll talk more about soon, has reaffirmed to him that he really wants to be trying to help the underdog. So he wants to start his own law firm to help people who are truly in need of a sharp legal mind like his. These poor
about
people.
That, I guess.
Yeah. So then they start musing about this law firm, and Ethan says, he starts having second thoughts, saying, oh, but we don't have the money. And then Theresa's like, no, we can start the law firm right here in the living room. Mama won't mind, and Luis won't mind either. Like, they're gonna open a law firm in the living room, which I don't have major objections to the site, but the fact that she has just said, like, we can do this. Bitch don't pay no bills in this house. Not a single bill does Theresa pay, because she hasn't been to work in God knows how long.
Because she keeps burning the places down.
Well, she was working at the mansion for Ivy.
Oh, she was.
And when's the last time you saw her at work? I haven't seen her work in months. And she's fired, obviously. Ivy hates her.
Yeah.
So you're not paying any bills in here. How the hell are you going to just give up Pilar and Luis's living room without talking to them, having a conversation with them first?
And then she had the audacity to say that we barely use the living room. It's a living room. It doesn't get used.
She's like, we barely ever use this room. I see y'all in here all the damn time. What are
y'all was in there
about?
yesterday. Y'all was in there today.
All the time. They're in there all the time. Not to mention, I believe that's where Ethan sleeps. Doesn't he live there? I think he lives and sleeps on the pullout.
So is he supposed to just sleep in the office? He's going to sleep in a filing cabinet in the office? Like, what?
I mean, I guess they'll just keep the pullout sofa there.
I guess. I mean, it'll be a comfortable place for clients to sit. I guess.
So, anyway, she's like, we can do it in here. That'll save us lots of money. And Ethan starts to get excited. And then he's like, oh, but we're going to need lots of, law books. I need to build a law library. He said a bunch of stuff, phones and computers and Xerox machine, like, the things you need for an office. He's like, and we don't have the money for that. So we're going to have to start small, but I'm really excited. Like, we're going to do this, but we can't do it right now, but we will do it.
Yeah.
So then he goes off to the book cafe, and he goes and asks Beth if she has any friends who have law books that they're willing to sell for cheap or whatever. She says, well, actually, you're in luck. I happen to have a basement full of law books. What?
So random. Like, who has a basement full of law books? Like, I know she said something about, like, her friend gave them to her to sell and she never got around to it. But, like, where did the friend get these law books?
I feel bad for the friend. I give my friend something to, like, my friend who has a bookstore. I say, hey, will you sell these books for me? And then they just never put them on the shelves. And then they just give them away to somebody else. Yeah,
like, what?
She was like, because Ethan was like, well, I don't have much money to pay for them. She's like, oh, we'll work something out. Wink, wink. She gave him those books.
She said, no, she did say that he could pay for it over time. She did say that.
She gave him those books. She did the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We'll work it out. She gave him those books.
Yeah, she did.
She did.
Because
she's not even hers to give away. Like I said, Beth ain't shit. And I'm sorry. I like, whatever. I know some people like her. I don't.
She's definitely not as bad as some people, but
you don't know what I know.
What, does she get worse? Does she do some more stuff?
Woo-wee. Yo, Naya, Beth gets downright psychotic.
What? Dang, she seemed like a little bit, shady, but like she didn't seem that bad. But
that one right there is a lunatic and not a lovable one either.
Just a lunatic. A loathsome lunatic.
And personally, I can't get down with the tactics that she uses. Like, you know how I'm like, okay, Kay, and like I said, I'm not like 100% like Team Kay. I just like Kay better than I like Charity, right? So, because I know that Kay has a couple of tactics that are about to come up that I wholeheartedly do not agree with.
Oh, they're really bad then, huh?
Yeah, and one of them she's done before. Soon she's gonna do this thing where she tries to like disguise herself as Charity, and she did that. We've done this once before, and try to like sleep with Miguel, trick him into sleeping with her because she looks like Charity.
Learned.
No, she doesn't. She goes back to the same 2 or 3 plans over and over again. Her plan has, you know what? To her credit, she is nothing if not reliable. We can rely on Kay to come up with the same stale plan. So anyway, now Beth's plans, I will say, it's definitely more interesting than like kind of shit that Kay gets into. Like it's hate, but the shit is heinous. Like it's just heinous.
Anyway, it's that bad.
It's so bad. Oh my God. Okay. I'll tell you when we get off if you want me to tell you. All right. So let me go on. Let me stop raging against Beth. Right now she's being nice. She's giving away books to Ethan. So Ethan is excited about these books. Meanwhile, back at the house, Teresita, what are you fucking doing? She starts to scheme about how she could possibly come up with all the money they need to start this law firm right now. She wants to get the money for Ethan. And remember, Whitney is there with her. So she's thinking up, and Whitney can see the lunacy bubbling beneath the surface there. And Whitney's like, dear God, what are you thinking? This girl comes out of her mouth, and I knew she was about to say. Like I knew what she was about to say. She said,
"Yeah, you felt it coming."
I did. She said, "Oh, I know exactly where we can get the money. I know where this bitch is going." She goes, "I am Mrs. Sheridan Crane, after all. Bitch, are you out of your mind? Have you lost it entirely? Y'all know I love Theresa. I love Theresa down, right? This I could not get behind." At all.
She has lost it.
Entirely. I couldn't get behind it at all. I was like sick to my stomach at the thought of this young girl who has just been victimized by this man, even if I guess they're not playing it that way though, for some reason. I don't know. They kind of are, because Pilar's upset. You've ruined my daughter. You've taken her innocence. You've stolen her, and you've done these horrible things to her. Teresa's been devastated by it, right? Like but her biggest problem has been that she is scared of how Ethan is going to react, right? But still, she's been emotionally damaged by it. We've seen that. Why on God's green earth would you go ask that man for money?
You saw not the victim blame, but you saw what happened last time you asked that man for something. You got married to him. Don't be asking him for nothing. I don't care if y'all married.
So then Whitney says to her, have you completely lost it, Theresa? And Theresa says to her, why are you being such a downer? Excuse? Whitney says, oh, I thought I was being your friend. Right. You are being her friend. And see, this is a moment where if Whitney was LeTara, you know what I mean? If I was that character in this show, like the best friend character, this is the moment where I would have been like, girl, I'm done with you. Like, I'm really completely finished with you. I'm going to go tell. I'm going to save you from yourself now.
About to go blow all this up.
And if it means we can't be friends anymore, it means we can't be friends anymore. But I gotta save you. Like, I love you enough to say I need to save you from yourself at this point.
And Ethan needs to know, because he's not going to find out he's not going to find out on his own.
No,
he's not capable.
Oblivious. He's so oblivious. So, Whitney then rightfully questions Theresa's plan, because Theresa says she's gonna ask Julian for money. Whitney says, like, how are you gonna do that? She's like, I'm gonna go to the mansion and ask him for it. Whitney rightfully is like, how are you gonna get into the mansion without being seen by Rebecca? Everybody, there's already all of these questions swirling around between you and Julian. They already have suspicions of you. How are you going to explain being in the mansion with Julian? She's like, I know the mansion inside and out, and I can slip in and get the money from Julian and get out before anybody ever sees me there. Good luck, bitch. So I'm just, I can't. I'm sorry, y'all. And this is why I wore my shirt today, because I need to look at her and remember that I do love her. Because these episodes, this right here had me going, I can't stand this bitch.
It's just a rough patch right now. It's a rough patch.
We're going through a rough time right now, me and my girl. Me and my girl are really having a hard time because, no, ma'am. I could not for the life of me wrap my head around this. She says, I'm going to just sneak into, I know the mansion inside and out. And get this, guess how she sneaks into the damn mansion, y'all. See, I'm thinking, okay, she's gonna go the back way. She's coming in the back side door. She knows some secret entrance or something, because we have seen that there is a back door to Julian's office that we've seen other people come through, and specifically from the outside of the mansion. Because we saw, I think, Sheridan and Louise come through that door when they were coming from the cottage. So we've seen people come from outside into the mansion through like Julian's back door back there. But does Theresa use that door?
No.
She's like, I'll sneak in and I'll sneak out. This bitch goes through the front door.
How was that sneaking? You could have at least went through a window or something. Like what? Or
she goes through the front door, and it was the loudest sneaking I've ever heard in my life. And of course, Gwen and Rebecca are there in the living room, like talking to each other. And she like runs inside, runs past them. They don't see her. She's like, crouched down. She's wearing like boots though, like with heels. So you hear her like clacking a little bit. It was loud.
She's crazy.
Yeah. And she zooms in and she gets to Julian's office. Meanwhile, Julian is like, everybody's been trying to get at him. Ivy, Pilar, Rebecca even. We'll talk about that soon. Like, take his life almost kind of stuff. Threatening his life. Everybody. And he says, I vow to never see Theresa Lopez Fitzgerald ever again, as he's like taking a drink. And then she walks in, Mr. Crane. And then immediately, oh my God. Immediately, this man is like, oh, have you rethought our arrangement? No, I'll tell you exactly what happens. What happens
this guy is so trifling.
What happens is, oh, y'all, I forgot to tell you this part. When Theresa runs off to the mansion, Whitney yells after her in great protest, and she says, you're making the worst mistake of your life. And Ethan walks in from the back on that line, and he's like, what are you talking about? You were saying that Theresa's making some sort of big mistake? And this girl says, oh, yeah, she's just going shopping. She was talking about buying some shoes. You know how Theresa can be. I was saying it would be a mistake to buy those shoes. Ethan buys it. Chad is looking at her like, huh?
That's just how dumb Ethan is.
He's so oblivious. She yelled, you're making the worst mistake of your life. And you really think she meant some shoes?
Like, who's yelling like that about some shoes? If Ethan had even like one more brain cell, he might be a little bit offended that Theresa would even like try to use that as an excuse. But obviously, like you said, he just ate that up. So
he ate it right on up. Yum, yum, yum. So, yeah, I forgot about that, but just remember that. Anyway, so Theresa has sneaked. Is it sneaked? Is sneaked a word?
I think it's snuck.
She snuck into the... Okay.
Yeah.
So Theresa has snucked her way...
Decided to combine them.
Theresa has made her way into the mansion and finds Julian. And she says to him, you're the only person who can give me what I want. And he says, well, you are my wife after all. Whatever I have is yours. And he says, I don't regret our marriage for, all the trouble it's been giving us. I don't regret it. He thinks that she also doesn't regret this marriage. And now she's ready to like be with him. And, then he just grabs her and starts kissing her. And she's like, what are you doing? And she like tries to push him off, but he is like, and I mean, he should have let go at that point.
Yeah, instantly.
She's trying to push him and saying, what are you doing? He's still like pawing at her, trying to kiss her. And it is at this point that Pilar overhears and she comes in. Now, this is the point where we have to go through the troubled marriages and talk about what happened in at the mansion before Theresa showed up. So, first of all, Ivy has shown up in her hover round and she demands to be let back into her house. Rebecca is guarding the front door, will not let her get in. Oh, no, you don't, Miss Missy. This is my house. I'm going to be the future Mrs. Julian Crane, and you are just a piece of trash. Like, you're just a tramp. Like, they're lobbing insults, but,
yeah.
Ivy says, get out of my way, bitch, or I'm coming through. And then Rebecca, like, pushes Ivy away in the wheelchair. Ivy comes back in the wheelchair. And then she rams Rebecca down.
That's what I'm talking about. She's powerful in this wheelchair.
Yeah, she runs Rebecca down with her wheelchair. And they struggle. Rebecca's like pulling at her. Ivy's like, ramming her with her wheelchair. Eve is there because she's like, this is my patient and I need to make sure she's okay. Honestly, y'all, I do not fully understand why Eve is here.
Me neither.
I never will. I will never understand unless they explain that Eve is still being blackmailed by Ivy. I can't tell at this point. If you know the answer to this, please email me or send me a DM. Like, because it is driving me crazy. So if you know whether or not Eve is still being blackmailed by Ivy at this point, and that's why she's so adamant about keeping Ivy safe, please tell me that I'm right or wrong on that. Okay, so because Eve is there helping Ivy, trying to help Ivy as much as she can. She's standing back, but Ivy, they struggle. Meanwhile, Julian is with his lawyer talking about getting that marriage annulled because, he's got a lot of issues if it doesn't get annulled, right? Pilar's threatening to kill him. If he doesn't get the marriage annulled, then he can't marry Rebecca, which means that Rebecca will tell the world that he murdered Sheridan. And so he's got a lot of issues over here with this. He's mulling over these consequences of his actions. He doesn't like what is coming down the pipeline for him if he doesn't get this marriage annulled. It's at this point that Julian and the lawyer Harper overhear this ruckus going on outside. They go to find out what's going on, and Julian sees Ivy and goes, "Good Lord, you're still alive!"
He was so funny. Like, Julian is a terrible person. Like, he's a terrible character. I'm just get that out of the way. But his performance is so good.
Ben Masters, and he's a master at acting. Like, he's so good at that character. And I don't know if anybody could ever do it the way he does it. Because like you said, Julian is vile. And I still be like, chuckling at his little one-liners.
And those faces that he makes, it's just so good.
There's something oddly endearing about him. Even though he's vile creature.
Awful person. Awful.
Yeah, he's our problematic fave.
Problematic fave, yeah.
There's so many problematic faves. This one.
I
That's
feel
one,
like
Theresa.
most of the characters on the show have at least one glaring problematic aspect about them.
Yeah, Theresa is I think my most problematic fave, because she really is my fave. Julian's not my fave. He just is problematic, and I like him sometimes.
He's a
Right?
problematic, sometimes like kind of entertaining guy, I guess.
Yeah. So he overhears the ruckus, goes out. Good Lord, you're still alive. And she goes, and breathing fire. And she like runs her wheelchair up to him. Like I said, I don't know if I've been clear about the fact that this is an electric wheelchair. It's not one where she's rolling it with her arms. She's just like pushing her little joystick. It's not a joystick, is it? What would you call that?
I don't know, like
trigger or
I mean,
I don't know what you call it, but she's pushing the little like gear. Let's call it a gear shift. She's pushing the little gear shift forward, and I don't know. I don't know what you call it.
That makes it sound like she's in a car, but I don't know what it's called.
Because the joystick makes it sound like it's like a video game to me, and it's far from that.
Maybe controller. That's
control the chair controller. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She like towards him. When she says, and I'm breathing fire. Julian says, didn't you get the divorce papers? This is no longer your home. She says, of course I got the divorce papers. She tears them up. She says, but I refuse to accept it. He then says, it's all perfectly legal. Harper here can tell you all about it. And he pushes, the lawyer forward. And then he pushes her off in her wheelchair and goes back in the house. But she comes back and she says, I'm staying here in my own home. And Eve starts to protest too. She's like, Ivy has to go somewhere. She's paralyzed. Are y'all really not going to let a paralyzed woman stay in her own home?
Yeah, she can't just be like in the hospital or homeless. Like,
well, they closed the door on Ivy. Ivy says, this isn't over. And she drives around to the other side of the house. Julian and Rebecca are sitting in the living room, and she drives her wheelchair through like those glass doors. I feel like they were like French doors in that living room. Drives through, and it's funny because I'm certain it's a callback to when she drove her car into the church, right? Like it's an obvious callback to that, and I love it, but also it's like, dang, y'all, that's kind of messed up. Why y'all do that? So anyway, she's in a wheelchair. So like, this is tragic, but whatever. She drives her wheelchair through the French doors, and she gets inside, and she's horrified. Like, they get the music like because as she looks around, Rebecca has redecorated the entire home, and it is hideous. It's hideous. And she's like, what have you done to my house?
Yeah, it's bad. It just been all little like decorations that's been changed, and it's just so funny.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it was really funny. She just talks about how tasteless Rebecca is. And then Julian says to her, don't make me call security. You need to get out of my house. She says, do whatever you like, but I'm staying. And then she drives off to go to her room. Rebecca once again tells Julian, we need to get married immediately so that I can get rid. Oh, sorry. Let me say that again. Rebecca then turns to Julian and says, we need to get married right now or else, right? Because she's like, I need to be Mrs. Julian Crane. I need to be able to say that and be able to kick Ivy out of here, basically. Then she goes after Ivy. Rebecca does. And Ivy then starts insulting Rebecca's taste, saying that she, what did I expect from a cheap tramp like you? Like, this house is a testament to how cheap you are. And then she insults her, saying like, and now you've trapped Julian into marrying you. And this really stings Rebecca. And I noticed this week that anytime Rebecca starts to think maybe Julian doesn't want to marry me, it like hurts her feelings. Like she is genuinely concerned that Julian is not interested in marrying her. Like not just because I mean she's blackmailing him, but she also thinks that he like I think she wants to think and believe that he kind of loves her in his own way and that they would be he understands that they're a really good match and that she would be a really good wife to him. So he would want to marry her. But she is getting she's feeling insecure about it. So, and I think Ivy noticed that, can glean that pretty quickly. And so she uses it to hurt Rebecca's feelings, says, oh, you're just trapping Julian. I don't know how you managed to trap Julian into marrying you. And she's like, I didn't trap him. He wants to marry me. Oh, you sure about that, girl?
Yeah. You might need to rethink that.
And so she says, this is no longer your house, threatens to call security. These two, they just continue just lobbing insults back and forth. I'll cut some of it this week for sure, to put on the social medias because it was really great. And it was going so fast that I didn't have the time to like type it all out. But they were really just serving. It was just like pure cunt. Like it really was. It was, I loved it myself.
I really enjoyed it too. I could watch them go back and forth for a while.
Yeah, it was the wit was sharp. They were right at the top. They were both like at the top of their game at the insults that they were throwing back and forth at each other. It had the right balance of like witty and sharp and cutting. It was really good. So yeah. I'll try to find those clips and cut them and put them up for everybody. Eventually, Ivy says, I'm not accepting this divorce. And that's when Rebecca slaps her across the face. And then Ivy slaps that bitch right back.
She does not wait around.
Yeah. And so then Ivy says she's going to go to her room. So she says, I'm going to take the elevator up to my room. So we learn that this house has an elevator. So she goes off. Meanwhile, Julian comes face to face with Eve again, who has already, if y'all remember, she was throwing bows at him last week. Okay. UFC. Just punching him, punch after punch after punch.
It was so good. I loved it.
He comes face to face with Eve again. He's starting to shake. His body remembers the trauma. He's starting to shake a little bit. She says to him, either you let Ivy stay here, or I'm going to tell everyone what you did to Theresa in Bermuda. Julian says to her, knock yourself out. I'm and I laughed at this. He's like, knock yourself out. Whatever. I'm sick of being blackmailed. Do what you have to do. And then Eve says, well, I'm going to tell Rebecca about Theresa. And she's going to be really upset. And he says, well, if you tell her, I'll tell TC that you and I had a baby. He called a bluff. I mean, you know what I mean? Okay, you got me.
Those in glass houses and all that.
All that. He says, I'll tell TC that you and I had a baby. She says, do it. And I'll tell Ethan and Luis what you did to Theresa. And then, they just go back and forth with these threats. And Julian says, you're bluffing. Eve says, I'm going to tell Rebecca. I'm going to go right now. And she storms out. And I think she was really about to stand on business.
Yeah, she was about to do it.
Yeah, I think she really was about to do it because she storms out. And this is when Theresa and Ethan show up because the maid had called to tell Ethan that his mom was like in an altercation with Rebecca. So they show up. Now everybody's in the living room. Eve says she has something to say, but I don't think she had seen Theresa and Ethan yet before she said she had something to say about Julian. She's like, I have something to say about Julian and I'm going to expose his evil deeds. And then that's when Sorry. That's when Ethan actually kind of interrupts and he says to Julian, because Julian has come out, that I am now my mother's legal counsel. I don't believe that any court in the land will condone you throwing this woman out, out of her own home in the especially in the condition that she is in. No court in the land will uphold this. And not only that, I haven't seen a divorce decree from you. I haven't seen a settlement agreement from you. We haven't seen anything of, I don't know anything about this divorce. So from this moment on, we are contesting the divorce. It is not legal. You have to pause on everything, basically. You have to let my mother stay here. And you have to basically like treat her as if she is still Mrs. Crane. So Harper, the other legal mind in the room, says to Julian, is like, actually, you know what? This might not be too bad for you because, maybe if, and y'all, the legalese around this was a little bit confusing to me because I thought, and I don't know about you, Naya, if you gleaned this, when Harper was talking to Julian about the Ivy contesting the divorce, I thought he was saying to Julian, okay, well, if Ivy contests the divorce, then your marriage to Theresa isn't legal. But that doesn't seem to be what is true, because later on Theresa says that her marriage to Julian is legal. I was so confused. Her marriage to Julian is legal as long as, I don't know, because Ivy hadn't contested the divorce yet. So because she got married to him between the time when he divorced her and she contested it, that their marriage is legal. I don't know why I'm trying to figure this
I'm getting
out.
more confused now. I'm not saying I was like, enlightened before, but like now I'm just more confused. I don't know.
I'm probably just making it worse. So anyway, Julian decides to let Ivy stay in the house because the lawyer told him, you need to back off on the Ivy front. Like, this is really dangerous legal ground for you, because you did go to, first of all, you went to Bermuda to get the divorce, and then you got married. Now you're trying to get that marriage annulled. It looks like you're a bigamist, right? Like, so they're trying to, he's like, you really need to just let her stay here and until we get this all figured out. So then the next day, Pilar comes to the mansion. Rebecca tries to treat her like a slave, basically is like, you're a servant, go get my bags. Pilar says, I am a housekeeper, I'm not your slave. They have words. Finally, Pilar says, I work for Ivy. I do, and as long as she's in this house, so will I be. I also want to say, it's crazy to me that a paralyzed Ivy, and I think I said this in the last episode, would fight so fucking hard to be in this mansion with these two people who hate her.
That's true.
Literally want her dead. Girl, you better put 3, 4, 5, 6 locks on your doors.
Yeah, because you've seen their murderous ways. Like,
she really has. And I mean, we saw what he did to Sheridan. He would have I don't think he'd have any problem getting her offed 86 as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, where was I? Pilar comes to the mansion. She and Rebecca have a run-in. Pilar says to her, I'm not interested in your pathetic attempt to take over this house. I'm just here to take care of Mrs. Crane. Rebecca's like, pathetic? How dare a servant call me pathetic? It's like, yeah, well,
you're acting pretty pathetic.
Yeah. Then Gwen tells Rebecca, maybe you should wait to move into the mansion until the Ivy and Julian's divorce is truly finalized. But Rebecca says, no, I'm moving in today. And if Julian tries to say anything about it, I've got something for his ass, basically. She says, and she also vows to figure out what's going on with Julian. And why Pilar. So she's like, seeing all the pieces, but she hasn't put all the pieces together. She knows there's something going on with Julian. There's something, and it's got something to do with Theresa. It's got something to do with Pilar, but she doesn't know why. She doesn't understand why Pilar would be so upset that she would attack Julian physically, right? So she's trying to figure everything out. She's worried that Julian is trying to weasel out of marrying her. And she then pulls out the biggest fucking gun I've ever seen.
Because at first when we saw it, we were both kind of like, that can't be a gun, can it? Because it was just so comically large. Like, why? You don't need a gun that big.
And she says to us, because I was like, is that a gun? And I think Gwen said the exact same thing when I said it. And then she was like, it's not a gun, it's a rifle. And then this crazy lady starts firing off rounds in the living room. She starts shooting this gun in the living room. She like puts her sights on a vase that was like a family heirloom of Ivy's. And she's like, I always hated that vase. Pow! Shoots the gun. Which we should also talk about the fact that Julian has a phone call with Alistair at one point, and Alistair is also shooting a rifle. And every time we see it 2 times. They did it 2 times. This isn't even important, but I just have to talk about it.
It is important.
Alistair gets his gun, and of course we never see Alistair, but we see the gun. They give us a close-up on the barrel of the gun. We hear the gun shot, but we see nothing come out of the gun.
And they literally take the time to zoom in. Like there was supposed to be something there, but there just never was.
2 times. And then when we see Rebecca shoot her gun, we see the shot come out. We actually see a shot come out of the barrel, and we see, obviously, the destruction that ensues after that. So, yeah, this lady's in here shooting guns. And so, it is at this point that... Harper is having a conversation with what's his name, Julian, and that's when Alistair calls and they have that little phone call or whatever. Harper is like, you know what, Julian? You know what? Get yourself a different lawyer, because Julian's like kind of being nasty to Harper. You need to get this annulment today. Get it done. I don't want any excuses. Harper's like, you know what? I work for your father. I don't work for you. Find yourself another lawyer to get you out of this mess. And you know what? I'm going to tell Alistair everything. And that's when Alistair calls, demands to know what's going on. Why is Ivy moving back in? Then Alistair pressures Julian to marry Rebecca ASAP, because she knows literally where the bodies are buried, right? Like she knows things that can harm the family.
So we shouldn't be just letting her run free or whatever, you know.
Correct. So it is at this point that Julian is talking to Harper, because Harper, for some reason, I think he changes his mind because Alistair called, and so he got like scared. I can't remember exactly, but Julian is talking to Harper about Theresa, and they have the door cracked. This was so weird.
Like the way the door was cracked, I was like, I know someone is going to appear in that doorway in like 0.2 seconds. I already know. And then guess who comes strolling up?
Yeah, well, he starts talking about Theresa, saying, yes, that girl wanted it as much as I did. What I wouldn't do for another 10 minutes in bed with her. All of these gross things. And that's when Pilar, of course, overhears him, and she comes in and attacks him again, saying, if you ever touch my daughter again, I'll kill you myself. They're worried about, you're worried about Ethan and Luis, but you should be worried about me, because I'm going to kill you with poison and you'll die the slow, painful death a pig like you deserves. Okay. And then Pilar says, and you better get that annulment done today. And it was funny because Harper was standing in the background like, yes, I do agree with you, Pilar. He was just like standing there. He eventually kind of pulls her off of him because she shows up. She like starts to attack him physically. He gets to the other side of the desk, and that's when she tells him she's going to kill him with poison. And then Harper tries to step in, make things kind of quiet down a little bit and help her. It is at this point that they hear the gunshots that Rebecca's shooting in the living room. So they all go out to the living room to see what the hell's going on out there. And Rebecca then trains her sight onto Julian and then lowers it to his like crotch area. It's like, if this should help you, I don't know. She's like, this should help you get a little pep in your step about marrying me. If anything, this gonna make him not want to marry.
Yeah.
Would be like, how the hell can I get out of this?
This girl is crazy. Like,
Crazy.
maybe I need 2 divorces.
Crazy. Yeah. My thing about this, I mean, you already had Sheridan killed. Go and take Rebecca out. I'm not saying it's right. But like, that'd be a quick, easy way to get out of this.
Yeah, and like, it's not like, the thing with Sheridan is Julian did feel like a little bit of like guilt over that, because you know, that's your family member.
Yeah.
But Rebecca, I mean, y'all ain't really got nothing. Not for real. And if I'm like evil like Julian, then I mean,
I think he cares.
What's another body?
I think he does care for Rebecca. I think, and I might have said this to you, he does really care for Rebecca. I believe, I might be wrong. Y'all could tell me if I'm wrong. Send me a message. I think Julian has only ever truly loved one woman, and I think that person was Eve. So I don't think he's ever, he doesn't love Rebecca in a way that would stop him. I feel like would really stop him from having her killed. You know what I mean? The only thing keeping him from having her killed is that Julian is not a murderer. Even though he did have Sheridan murdered, he himself is not a murderer. He felt backed into a corner, right, by his father. So
yeah, he's not like, that's not his first plan or first option.
Yeah, that's not his go-to. So yeah, I know I said he should just have her nixed, but
I mean, if she's gonna kill him first,
yeah, I mean, yeah, she's out here shooting guns, got a gun sights on him.
That's just self-defense at that point.
Like, you're right. You're actually right. It's just self-defense at this point. So anyway, he manages to talk her down because she's like, you're trying to weasel out of marrying me. He says, no, Bex, I just want you to have the wedding that you deserve. And, the stuff with Ivy, because she's like, I can't figure out, why would you let Ivy stay in this house? He's like, it just, publicity, like it would look bad for us to just throw her out when she's basically the hero of Harmony right now. And also, she, is paralyzed. It just looks bad optically. He manages to talk her down. She puts the gun down, puts it away. That's basically where we ended with them mostly. But now I have to go back to Theresa. Because Theresa does go to the mansion. After all of this hoopla, all of this, she shows up at the mansion. She asks Julian for money. Well, no, she doesn't ask him for the money. Did we already talk about this a little bit?
Wait, yeah, we did. Because that's when, you said, like, he started to kiss her. And then she was like, no, stop. And then that's when Pilar ran in.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So Pilar comes in. She picks up a letter opener and starts to act like she's gonna like stab Julian with it. And then that's when Ethan and Ivy are having a conversation out in the living room, and they hear the commotion coming from the office, and they go in there to investigate. And Ethan's like, "What the hell is going on here?" Like, they question what Pilar's problem is, because when they come in, she's got that knife in the air, like psycho style, ready to plunge it into Julian's chest, like Tosca did Scarpia. If you know, you know. So that's exactly what Tosca did. Anyway, whatever. That's an opera. Look it up. It's my favorite opera. If y'all want to know, it's one.
What's it called?
Tosca. Tosca. But anyway, Ivy and Ethan come in, try to question Pilar on like, what the hell's going on? Why are you trying to kill Julian? Pilar says, it's time the truth comes out. Ethan has a right to know. And that's when Theresa says, then I should be the one to tell him. And then she turns to him and says, to her credit, she tells the truth. Kind of. She says, I came to ask Julian for a loan. And because I thought that he would still care enough about you as his son to help you out, Ethan. Ethan tells her, I don't want his money. What made you think I would want Crane money?
Yeah, girl, think, girl, for 1 second.
He says, any money that the Cranes give us comes with crazy strings attached. We do not want that money. But then Ethan says, but wait a minute. That still doesn't explain why Pilar would be so upset that she's trying to stab Julian. And at the same time, Julian is like slyly, because I don't think I said this, the annulment papers came through. The annulment papers were faxed over to Julian. So it's at this point that he's trying to slyly get to the annulment papers. Theresa has already signed them. I don't think we talked about that. The annulment papers came through. This is what stopped. Maybe I got my notes back turned around, but I don't know. The annulment papers come through before Ethan and Ivy come in. Theresa signs them very quickly, but something triggers Pilar again, and that's when she picks up the thing and tries to like stab him again. I can't entirely remember what it was,
because she's tried to kill him so many times in this
she's
episode.
just pissed. She hates him. She hates him.
For good reason.
She's really seeing red. So that's when Ethan and Ivy come in. They question everything. The annulment papers are like kind of sitting on a table where everybody would be able to see them if they noticed them. So Julian is slyly trying to get the papers before Ethan or Ivy sees them, but Ivy notices that Julian's trying to get over there to get the papers, and she sees what he's trying to get to. She grabs him. She looks at him. She says, oh my God, these are annulment papers. Really, Julian? You married someone when you were in Bermuda? Oh my God, why does this have Theresa's signature on it? Ethan says, Theresa's signature? What? He takes the papers. He looks at them. He says, Theresa, is this your signature? Ivy's like, of course, that's her handwriting.
Yes, why you even ask her that?
And he says, Ethan is still so confused. Ivy spells it out for him because he's like befuddled, truly befuddled. He's just like, oh, why would Theresa's name be on annulment papers with Julian? Ivy literally spells it out. Obviously, the two of them got married in Bermuda. And then Ethan turns around and asks Theresa, are you married to the man I grew up thinking was my father? And that's where we ended this week.
Yeah, Theresa's just standing there. She didn't say anything yet.
Yeah.
It's crazy how this dude is a lawyer. Like,
oh my God, he's such an idiot. He's such an idiot. There was a little bit of Sam and Grace stuff, but not much. Basically, Sam and Grace have a conversation over the phone wherein we learn that Grace has fully and completely decided and committed to getting her marriage from David annulled, getting a civil divorce from him, getting remarried to Sam. They're talking about how great their life is going to be together, how much she knows she's making the right decision. She feels very firm about it. They hang up. David, of course, shows up because Grace is at the construction site of their new home. David says he just wants to come and help. Grace says you could help by getting on with your life. And y'all, I'm really like paraphrasing, paring this down because Naya and I are both very tired. It's been a very long day and she's been gracious enough to do this with me after work and it's late already. So I'm going to pare this down really fast. So she tells him he needs to move on with his life. He says, I would be happy to move on with my life if you would just do one thing for me to prove one thing to me. She says, what's that? And he kisses her. That's really the bulk of it.
Oh my God.
That's really the bulk of it. He of course talks about how Sam, did you really get back with Sam because you really want to be with him, or can you just not stomach the idea of him going back to Ivy? She protests, saying Sam doesn't want to be with Ivy. Even if I wasn't with him, he wouldn't go back to her. They do that back and forth. She has told him, to Grace's credit, because y'all know I gave Grace a bunch of shit the last few weeks with this David stuff. But to her credit, on multiple times in these episodes, she tells him, you should move on with your life.
Yeah, he really should.
And I agree with that.
Because,
so that's... Oh, go ahead.
Because, like, even though you were married to her at one time and all that stuff, that was so long ago. She's not the same person she was all those years ago. Also, she has, like, a whole, like, family and husband and life, and she doesn't need you anymore. We don't need you. No one in Harmony needs you. Just leave.
No. No one needs you here. You can't sit with us. All right. So that's it for the week. Thank you, Naya, for helping me out this week. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for making this episode fun.
You're welcome. All right. And I don't know why I say you're welcome. I should be like, no, you made it fun too. We made it fun together. Girl, I'm tired. My back hurt. Let's get off here. So with that, remember, you can always find me on all the social medias. Just check the link in the description. The link tree will take you to all of the different links. Go buy some merch. Please, God, I need some money. We got to pay the rent.
Please buy merch. It's so cool.
Buy some merch. Leave a tip. Join the Patreon. Something to support.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Leave a review. Something to support us in this endeavor would be very, very helpful. But you all have been wonderful so far already. So thank you. And with that, you are my passion for life.